Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear viewers, in this video, you will learn in detail about the subject as an introduction to the sustainable development and disaster risk management. And this is an important subject. So, because the new constructions and the projects that are implemented, so they have to use the concept of sustainable development while at the planning stage, because the sustainable development plays a very crucial role in every project. So there are some strategies and policies to be followed to make your constructions of project more sustainable. So this is lecture 1, and we will learn completely this lecture from basics to advanced level. So keep watching the coming videos in this on this subject. So now we have to do an introduction to the course and the course objectives. So the sustainable development, the objective of this subject is basically to encourage the students in exploring the challenges that the society is facing, and to understand the role, which is the basic role and specific role of civil engineers in the society, so that the civil engineers could solve the problems faced by the society, by the community, and to understand the interactions between the civil engineering professions, physical infrastructure, and social institutions. So in this subject, basically in the sustainable development, so a civil engineer should be able to solve the problems of the community, of the society, and to understand the interactions that how civil engineering is a profession is related to the physical infrastructure and social institution. So you will learn completely, and your concept should be clear about this while after learning of this subject, because the civil engineer plays a very important role to cope with the problems faced by the society in terms of the development. So the disaster risk management, the first part of this subject is the sustainable development, and the next part, the second portion of this subject would be the disaster risk management, and which is a very crucial topics and as a subject. So the disaster management plays a very important role in the agencies and in the government agencies, so that you can manage the disaster. So you will learn completely in this subject. So the purpose of this course is to provide an introduction to the role of civil engineers and planners in the disaster response and preparedness, so that the role will be learning of the civil engineers and planners, so that they can respond and to reduce the risk of disasters and to mitigate the disaster, and in case if the disaster takes place occurs, so what should be the response of the community. So the planners and engineers will play important role in this solution. So engineers and planners are concerned with the long-term aspect of disaster. They are involved in the long terms of the developments. So the processes of pre-disaster mitigations and post disaster recovery. So they have to mitigate to reduce the chances and risk of the disasters. It is work that has to be done before the disaster, pre-disaster, and after the disaster they have to do the recovery, which is the part of the disaster management cycle. One of them is the recovery. So if a disaster occurs, so after the disaster, so the planners and engineer have to do a proper recovery. So the course will only minimally touch the disaster response and emergency preparedness, which is very important. So during a, just after a disaster takes place, so the engineer, especially the civil engineers, is responsible to visit the site and look if the buildings are in some serious conditions, means there is some people inside the building and building is at the condition, so as if it is slowly uh, touched, so they can make a disaster more, so that the people inside the building may die. So the civil engineers has the uh, techniques that how to play with the structure so that the people inside the building or a structure can be safely evacuated. So we have to introduce the students with the tools and approach to deal with the complexity and uncertainties while in the planning stage and in the management of the disaster. So the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So they have to develop the uh, concept and approach to deal with the complexity and uncertainty in certain decision making process. So now first to know about the sustainable development. So what is basically a sustainable development? So a sustainable development is that type of development in which you have to fulfill, meet the needs of the present people, present generations, but without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So the definition of the sustainable developments explains that how we have to use the available resources so that we can fulfill the requirements of the present people, present generations, but without compromising on the ability of the future generations so that they can also fulfill their requirements from the same resources. So sustainable development is basically the organizing principle for meeting the human development goals while at the same time sustaining the ability of the natural system, nature resources, so that we can provide the natural resources and ecosystem services upon which the economy and society mostly depends. So simply, the sustainable developments explains that how we can use the available nature resources in such a way that we can fulfill our requirements optimally and without compromising on the ability of the future generation so that they can also use the same resources to fulfill their requirement. So this is what the sustainable development deals. So this was about the simplest definition of the sustainable development. So the sustainable development practices helps the countries, communities in order to grow in such a way that to adopt the challenges posed by the climate change, which in turn help to protect the important natural resources. So the sustainable developments helps that how to uh, face the challenges so that we can use the resources in such a way to pose the climate changes, which will in turn help to protect the important natural resources for ours and also for the coming future generations. So by the year 2050, it is estimated that our global population will likely to reach 9 billion people, which is a very huge figure. And currently, the population of the world is about 7.2 billion. And by estimations, in 2050, the population will reach to about 9 billion people. So we have to provide the services, the resources to the facilities to those 9 billion people. So if currently we use the natural resources in such a way so that we can only fulfill the requirements and to keep them the remaining resources for the coming generation, so that would be more better. So that is what the sustainable development will uh, deal with this. So some of the books in order to study the sustainable developments, and these are the two books, and one of them is this one, and one of them is this one. So you can use these books, Sustainable Development in Fractals, as a general handbook for the sustainable development concepts. So this was all about these lectures as an introduction to the course of sustainable development and disaster risk management. So now if you have any question, you can ask in the comment sections, and thank you for watching this video. And in next lecture we will be proceeding to study this subject more towards advanced levels from the basics. So keep watching the videos which will be uploaded next time. So thank you for watching this video.